Welcome everyone. Today I have a new video to look at the Path of Exile unique items that will be coming with early access for Path of Exile 2. Now looking behind me, there are a lot of unique items that is currently will be available for the early access. And in this video, we'll go through the potential effects of those items and look into how some of those items can help to create certain build and also enable certain build and also allow you to have a two-handed weapon equipped with one hand, which is actually pretty cool, right? So let's go through some of those effects of unique items together and let's be prepared for some excitement once those items drop for us in Path of Exile 2 Early Access. Now before we dive into the details of those unique items, I would like to disclose that this is before the release of the early access and it is possible those items may be changed upon release. And at the same time guys, you can see that I have over 900 hours with Path of Exile 1, but I'm not a professional. I'll say I'm pretty noob with Path of Exile 1 still. So as we go through those items, you might come up with certain crazy good build for those items, and I might be missing it because I don't have as much knowledge as you guys with Path of Exile 1 coming over to Path of Exile 2. So bear with me, and if you do have any great insight and also build for those unique items, let us know in the comments so we can be prepared for Path of Exile 2 together. So coming over to the items, you can see there are a few items that has not disclosed the exact effect of those items, but the majority of the items are available for us to have a look. The first items we have is gonna be Abram of Imbram. Oh gosh, I cannot pronounce names. Let's just go with the unique item armor. So the first unique item armor we have a look at is gonna allow our bleeding that is inflicted to be aggravated. Now I did search around what is gonna be aggravated bleeding, cause you know me, I did have to have a look around. So by the looks of it from the Path of Exile community, it seems like we can stack bleeding on multiple sources to allow us to deal higher bleeding damage. Well, this is to my understanding. Could be wrong though, but this is definitely going to be a great chest armor for a bleeding build. There's also other unique items that allow you to bleed enemies with a 20% chance, which we'll have a look next. So this particular item, if you guys are planning for a bleeding build, this can be a crucial piece of the armor that will amplify your damage with bleeding. Now jumping forward a little bit quicker into the Bloodthorn's quarterstaff. This quarterstaff provides us with a 20% chance to bleed on hit, and it is possible this can combine with the first chest piece we had a look at to build into a physical bleeding build. And both of those items could be easy to access compared to most of the other unique items, and this may be enabling an early game bleeding build or even a mid to late game bleeding build for certain classes. Now in terms of early game unique items, the Black Sun Crest, this is a helmet that provides us with a lot of bonus dexterity, strength and also intelligence. By the looks of it, this piece might also come with 20% quality and also a massive increase with armor, but with a reduced light radius as a compensation for the power of this item. It is likely this item could be something of an early game item because in the early and mid game, characters might not have the required stats to fulfill certain gems and also certain items, and this can help them boost into fulfilling those particular roles. Now the next item is gonna be the Bones of Ola boots. This particular boots now allows our minion to have 20% reservation, 20% less reservation. And right away guys, you can notice this is gonna be a very powerful unique item to allow the Necromancer or the Witch with Infernalist and also with a Blood Mage to have even more permanent minions. Together with additional life and also increased energy shield, I think this is definitely gonna be a nice item if you're running a minion build that want to have 20% more summons. Now the Bristol Broad chest piece armor is gonna be an interesting item that provides us with 5 rage when crit by enemy and gain 1 rage when hit by enemy. So this is gonna be a rather defensive piece that want to take more damage in return in gaining more rage. Now usually you don't want to get crit by enemies, and usually you don't want to get hit by enemies. So this is more towards a tanking piece that may be good with other tanky pieces, as we're gonna see next with some of the shield. Now on the topic of the tanky piece, we also have the Cloak of Flames. This actually reminds me of Warcraft 3 actually. The Cloak of Flames is actually something that reflects damage. This is gonna be a very interesting piece if you're planning to play a Thorns build, providing us with bonus resistance to fire and also reduced fire duration of Ignite. this item will reflect 100 fire damage to the melee attackers, and this also converts our physical damage as fire damage. So this is gonna be a very cool defensive reflective build for certain classes. Then I'm interested to look into this one if I do get my hands on one of those unique pieces of the chest armor. Now our next unique item is actually something that was demonstrated in the live stream. So let's have a look at this boost. I'm sure you guys have heard of this one.
Corpse Wade will make any corpses you run through explode into clouds of poison.
So that was pretty straightforward explanation. So this one will be something to do with enabling you to deal damage with corpses. And this can be a good early game item if you're planning to farm with increased movement speed and also just doing a little more damage. This can be combined with the Witch and also Necromancer classes to make use of corpses as well. And our next piece of unique body armor is going to be the Culture of Crimson. This item will provide us with reduced life and also reduced bleeding duration. And in exchange, this will provide us with life leech that overflows to maximum life. So from what I can, guess with this particular effect is that we will be gaining additional maximum life as we have higher life leech. And in exchange, of course, you'll be having reduced maximum life. But this item can be potentially very good in terms of defense and potentially offense if you have classes that has a lot of life leech and uses their life as bonus damage. I'm not sure how good this one will be for the Blood Mage, but I think this one can definitely work with the Infernalist, which can deal a lot of damage in the demon form, and then having life leech can provide you with even higher life as you overflow those life leech. Now coming over to the Devastator's Wind with the unique spear. This particular spear will increase our physical damage massively, and together with increased cooldown recovery for the movement spells and providing us firing additional projectiles if we have used a movement skill with Disengage. So this one is quite interesting, and while having the offhand being empty, you will gain 10% movement speed, which is a little interesting trade-off. And also together with the effect that attack will cause bleeding if the last skill we used was Engage, which is quite interesting. You engage, you make them bleed, and then you can disengage to shoot more projectiles. So this could be a cool combo piece of spear that can work in some of the bleeding build, which is quite interesting, right? Now our next unique ring is gonna be the Dora's Daeming. This particular unique ring seems very powerful to me right on first sight. This will provide you up to 15% all resistance, which is great, and also ability to provide with additional curses, which can amplify our damage dealt or reduce the enemy's damage dealt to us. Together with abilities to gain mana when killing enemies, this could be a very powerful item for farming and can take us from the early game all the way to the late game. Even if you're not running curses, just having the resistance and also additional mana can be great for any class with most of the build. Now the Gambler Sprint unique boots is something that was also demonstrated in a live stream if we have a look over here. But let's quickly read through the description. So here you'll be gaining dexterity, additional evasion and also lightning resistance. The biggest factor is chances to gain up to 40% movement speed at random when hit, and then until you're hit again you'll retain this movement speed. This can be very good for a speed farming ranger build, and as you get hit, you somehow roll the maximum 40% and then you avoid getting hit, all of a sudden you become a speedy machine that flies across the map, which could be a very powerful item for certain speed farming build. Now the Hawk Hunt is going to be a unique two-handed mace. This particular mace will provide us with increased physical damage, increased critical strike chance, reduced attack speed, and also increased strength, with the ability to man enemies on critical hit. Now I did have a look at with Path of Exile. When you're manning enemies, this is a debuff that reduces the enemy's movement speed. There's also other cool interactions as enemies are manned, and this can be a potentially good PvP item if you want to hit players and also slow them down. And of course this particular mace does have increased critical strike chance, which can be great for a boost of damage. And again guys, I'm not the most expert with the ability that uses men, so it's possible there's other interactions with this particular mace. As you critical hit your main enemies, and maybe you can have cast on critical hit or certain effects after this. Now the Innsmouth is going to be a unique helmet that provides us with a 100% increased mana regeneration rate, together with some good cold and also chaos resistance. and also 50% reduced maximum mana, this particular item can be a cool item that interacts with other items that may be costing you more maximum mana per cast. So there are skills and also items that maybe require you to spend your maximum mana. And in exchange, having the less maximum mana may be a good thing, while having higher mana regeneration will compensate for a lot of the lost mana, and this may be a great way to empower you with more resource with mana. Now the Kiko's current is going to be a unique glove that allows electric damage hits to contribute towards electric build-up. And by the looks of it, this is going to be a more spell-based item that will focus on lightning and also shock and also electric damage. And in contributing to the electrocute build-up will enable us to do more lightning damage either with Shroom. Now I'm not too familiar with the sources build, but looks like it, you can be using this one for the sources or maybe for the monk to deal higher lightning damage. Now one of the ones I really want to get is going to be the Life Sprint unique wand. This wand will provide a massive +3 level to all spell gems and also provide us with additional life recovery as we cast a spell. So one of the plans for me is to play the Infernalist, and playing the Infernalist I want to go into my demon form that loses life. So having increased spell skill ranks is amazing, together with increased mana, quicker casting speed, and also the life gain is perfect for my demon form for my Infernalist. It is also possible to go with other build that also loses mana over time, and this can compensate for the lack of life and provide us with even high damage. Now coming over to the unique shield with Merit of Service. Now this is one of the first items that can potentially be great in terms of a team synergy. This item will provide allies in presence that is around us with a block chance equal to our current block chance. And because you're using a shield with high block chance, it is likely you'll be having even higher block chance and also more defensive mechanics and also passive skills. And this can all of a sudden empower your whole team to be super defensive with higher block, and you can even be the best tank for the team to face some of the harder content together, maybe the bosses or maybe some of the in-game dungeons that can be super difficult and dying can be a big punishment. Now our next unique build, it was demonstrated in the live stream. So let's have a look at the replays, and this one's pretty self-explanatory with high attack speed and also better animation.
Of course, some uniques are just pure hits of dopamine, like Quill Rain, which just turns your bow attacks into full auto by doubling your attack speed.
So if I was playing a bow ranger, I would definitely want this particular bow anytime in the game. I love the attack speed, and sometimes you can even proc multiple instances of effects with high attack speed. And by the looks of it, this item doesn't require a very high dexterity, and the required level is only level 5. So maybe for other mage classes that can also make use of this item, because you might have less attack damage, but if you're going for shock, ignite, and this can be something that we can look into. Now the Sands of Silk unique body armor was also demonstrated in the live stream, so let's have a look at this one as well.
The Sands of Silk is a body armor that changes your dodge roll into a blink, morphing you into sand as you teleport past your foes.
So that item, well, I think this is more towards an early game item. In the early game, having additional skill, a high level skill with Blink can allow you to traverse through the map and also going through ledges and also cliffs. But in the late game, you do want something better on your body armor, so I don't think this is gonna be too late game, or maybe I can be wrong, maybe you want to be blinking around for certain bosses. Our next unique armor is gonna be the Black Delt. This particular item will provide us with some bonus intelligence, and also the damages over time bypasses energy shield. Now to compensate for this item has a really interesting mechanics that allows you to heal when your life is not at full life. So you are sacrificing 10% of mana per second to recover that much lost as life. Again, this can be a great item for classes that will lose life constantly, like the Infernalist that becomes a demon form. Yes, I'm looking for item for my build, and I do want to get my hands on this piece of armor as well, because I am planning to stack a lot of mana regeneration, a lot of minion undeath that provide me with more mana, and once I get the ton of mana, if I can convert my excess mana into additional life, this can be a very interesting item. And even though damage over time bypass energy shield, I don't think that's a big deal. There's more ways for me to heal, right? So this one is definitely on my list to find for Path of Exile 2. Now we have mentioned about the Bloodthorn that provides us with more bleeding on hit. The next unique stuff we have is gonna be the Endless Night. which provide us with +2 rank to all cold spell gems, which is already great, increased mana regeneration, and also enemies chilled by you have no elemental resistance. If you're playing a mage or sorceress or anything that to do with elemental spells, this will be a very broken stuff for a lot of content. It is possible there are some monsters with a very high elemental resistance, and having this stuff means you have a cheat code on a lot of the in-game content, and this will enable you to deal a lot of increased damage with your spells. If you're running with cold spells, this is amazing. And I think even if you're not running with cold spells, if you have a way of chilling enemies, this can still be a very powerful stuff. Now the Knight's Errant is going to be a pair of unique builds, and this provides us with a particular talent or the skill passive with Iron Reflex. So coming over to Iron Reflex, what you can see here is Iron Reflex will allow us to convert all the evasion rate we have into armor. This is going to be a very defensive item or defensive skill passive that can be an armor stacking class. The downside is that you're no longer gaining evasion through dexterity, but most strength classes probably don't have much dexterity. So this particular unique item allows us to unlock one of the big nodes that can provide us with even more armor, and this can be an armor stacking class. Now the last flame is one of the very interesting relic unique that has a lot of players discussing about this. So personally, we're not sure exactly what is gonna be teleporters, and here when you're fighting with Zekrom, maximum honor is 1, and then you want to get this particular item when you're fighting this particular boss, I would assume, and cannot be used with trials below level 80, and this item is destroyed when applied to a trial. So this may be one of the more common relic unique compared to the other unique items, or maybe this is a very extremely rare find. Now players in the community have speculated this can be one of the very challenging items that reduces your life to 1 in exchange for some very rare item to be dropped from going through the trials beyond level 80. Again, if we do find more information on this one, and if you guys do know more about this item, please let us know in the comments, because I don't think I can go through the trials with only 1 HP, unless there's mechanics that make us unkillable, maybe with a lot of energy shield, or maybe with some interesting mechanics. Now our next unique stuff is going to be the Sharing Touch. This particular item will increase the chance of Ignite and also effect of Ignite by 100%. Together with increased fire damage and also casting speed, this can be a very powerful fire sources build. And I can use this on my Inferno list as well. Yes, always looking for my own build. So you also gain level 9 Living Bomb, but together with the chances to Ignite and also effects of Ignite, if you're playing an Ignite build, which we did have a previous video on the Raging Spirit Ignite auto casting, this can be a very interesting item with fire damage increase. Now the Wailing Wall is going to be a unique shield that provides us again with a Rising Shield. And over here, we can now block damage from all hits with a shield. And if you want to play a tank that has a lot of defensive capacities, this item also provides you with increased stun threshold, and in exchange of course is that we cannot use shield skills. But if you are planning to go with something defensive, this may be the most defensive shield. Now the Tree Fingers is going to be a very powerful unique gloves that provide us with Giant Blood. So the other effects of this item is not massive. So you're gaining a bit of armor, you're also gaining a bit of the physical damage. But in terms of Giant Blood, it seems like this allows you to wield a 2-hand weapon with only 1 hand. And this particular unique effect is worth all of its money, right? It's very high in stats with 2-handed weapons, and having this particular pair of gloves means you can build into some interesting build for most of the classes, and this allows for a lot of creativity and also a lot of synergies. Now over here we have the unique bow with Widow Hell. This particular item, well, there's only 1 stat. It will increase up to 250% of the bonuses gained from the equipped quiver. That's it. Yes, there's no other stats. You do have a basic damage, and you do have attack speed and also critical strike chance, but this particular item is very interesting. Usually the quivers empowers your bow, but here the bow will empower your quiver by 250%. So if you have a god tier quiver and then you have this particular bow, all of a sudden you get a lot of stats. I don't even know how this will work, but this could be very interesting. And here we have the Winter's Bite, a unique dagger that provides no physical damage, but adds towards cold damage and also frees enemies that are full life. It's a little interesting. I'm not exactly sure how we want to use this dagger, but they may be build that combines with freeze on cast and also abilities with cold spells to provide yourself with tons of cold spells, and when enemies are frozen, dealing more damage to them. Now one of the final unique we have is gonna be a unique shield with Wolf's Bane. This item again with a shield provides us with Raised Shield, and this also permanently intimidate enemies on block. So after blocking, you can be the best tank of your team. And there may be interactions with Intimidate that allows you to do even higher damage against enemies. Okay, that was definitely a lot of summaries I went through with those items. Now there are some items that was revealed, like the gloves over here, and also a few items you can see that we know it's available, but we don't know the stats yet. As we get more information as we come over to the early access, and if there's any item of interest, I'll let you guys know. For two reasons. One is that we want to know the effects and would that work for our build. The second reason is we want to know if that we find this item, how much currency and also how worth it can be, how rare those items are. And because I'll be playing the market, I'll keep you guys updated with the latest market rate of those unique items, and if there's a super rare item, we should be trying to keep it or maybe sell it for a much higher price. Now before we finish, if you guys haven't subscribed, this is a really good time to do so because I'll be looking into the latest Path of Exile 2 news on different communities and also on our official forum, official webpage. I'll also be looking into the best build for each of the class as the meta develops with the Chinese and also the English community. So stay tuned for the latest update and also guides for Path of Exile 2. And of course, this is gonna be a big month for us. And I'll try to bring you guys all of the latest content and also guides for Path of Exile 2 to come.